Welcome back to Northeast Legends and Stories, where we dive deep into the rich tapestry of the Northeast past, uncovering tales that have shaped its history and captured imaginations across generations. I'm your host, Mike D., and today, we are going way up into the oldest mountains on the planet, the Appalachians. That long, crumpled spine of stone that starts in the gas fields of northern Pennsylvania rolls through the anthracite hollows of the Poconos, across the Allegheny Plateau, down the spine of West Virginia, slips through the Smokies, and finally peters out in northern Georgia and Alabama. This is the land where the coal dust is still in the creek water, where the hollers are so deep the sun only hits the porch at high noon, where the trees grow crooked because the wind never stops arguing with them. And somewhere in those folds of ancient rock lives, one of the quietest, most persistent, and most geographically widespread legends the eastern half of the continent ever produced. The Moon-Eyed People. They were small, pale as birch bark, with huge luminous eyes that couldn't stand daylight, thick beards that made them look like tiny, ghostly old men, and a habit of building mile-long stone walls and circular forts only under the cover of darkness. According to the Cherokee, Creek, Yuchi, Shawnee, and half a dozen other tribes, they were already here when the ancestors arrived, already old, already fading, and already terrified of the sun. It's a story that feels like pure fairy tale. Until you stand on the 855-foot serpentine wall at Fort Mountain, Georgia at 3 a.m. under a full moon and realize the stones are still exactly where someone put them 1,500 years ago. And then you remember that the exact same silhouette shows up in legends from the Adirondacks to the Ozarks, from the Catskills to the Cumberland Gap. In 100 different tribal languages and settler dialects, the Moon-Eyed People aren't just an Appalachian curiosity. They are the southernmost expression of one of the oldest hidden race myths on the entire eastern seaboard, a story that stitches the whole Northeast together under the same dark quilt. Let's start where the Cherokee themselves started, because the best stories always begin with the people who were here first. The Cherokee didn't invent the Moon-Eyed People. They inherited them. When the Cherokee moved south into what is now western North Carolina, eastern Tennessee, northern Georgia, and northeastern Alabama sometime between 1000 and 1500 CE, they found the high ridges already occupied. The existing inhabitants, according to oral history collected by James Mooney in the 1880s, and by countless story keepers since, were a race of small, light-skinned people who spoke a language no one understood, lived in stone houses and circular hill forts, and only came out at night. The Cherokee called them Sunil Kalu or Aniunwia Atseli, the ancient white people, but most often simply the Moon-Eyed People because their large, pale eyes were blinded by sunlight and seemed to glow faintly under starlight. They were described as gentle but secretive, no taller than a 10-year-old child, bearded, which immediately set them apart from most southeastern tribes, and master builders who worked exclusively by moonlight, raising walls that snaked along ridgelines for miles and circular enclosures that looked like star maps from the air. The Cherokees said they were already old when the Cherokee arrived, already dwindling, already losing ground. The decisive clash happened on a night of the elders still remembered in detail. A full moon so bright it turned the ridges silver. Cherokee warriors attacked at midnight, using the very light that crippled their enemies. Blinded and disoriented, the Moon-Eyed couldn't fight back effectively. Some fled west toward the Mississippi, others deeper into caves or underground passages that the Cherokee sealed behind them with stone, ceremony, and songs that are still considered too powerful to sing casually. After that night, the high forts were empty, the fires cold, and the Moon-Eyed became legend. Now pause, because that single image, a moonlit battle driving pale, nocturnal builders into the earth, is the exact same shape as a dozen other Northeast legends if you squint just a little. Up in the Adirondacks, the Mohawk and Abenaki tell of the stone giants or stone coats, pale beings who built the great cairns on the mountaintops and only moved when the moon was out. In the Catskills, the Lenape spoke of the, please excuse my butchering of the name, Minakahas, the hidden people, small and fair, who lived inside the mountains and came out only at night to repair the stone walls that kept evil spirits at bay. In central Pennsylvania, the Susquehannock had tales of the Gendenwetha, star people who feared the sun and built the ring forts along the river bluffs. The Seneca in western New York still talk about the Gahongas, stone throwers who lived in cliff caves and only hunted by moonlight. Even in the coal regions of northeastern Pennsylvania, 19th century Welsh and Irish miners swore they knocked through into Welsh caves, where pale, bearded figures spoke an old language and vanished when lanterns were raised. The details change, but the silhouette is identical. Small, pale, nocturnal, master builders, driven underground or westward by later tribes. The Moon-Eyed people aren't an Appalachian outlier. They are the southernmost expression of a legend that stretches from the St. Lawrence to the Tennessee River, one of the oldest and most consistent hidden race stories on the entire eastern seaboard. And the archaeology? It doesn't laugh the story off. Start with Fort Mountain in northern Georgia. There's an 855-foot-long serpentine stone wall along the crest, zigzagging for no obvious defensive reason, built sometime between 500 and 1500 CE. No mortar, just carefully fitted stones, some weighing hundreds of pounds, laid in patterns that look deliberate from the air. The Cherokee said the Moon-Eyed built it as a last redoubt. Same story at Niquossee Mound in Franklin, North Carolina, where a low stone platform sits beneath the later Cherokee Mound. Same at Judaculla Rock in Jackson County, a soapstone boulder covered in petroglyphs that look like star maps or circuit boards, guarded in legend by a slant-eyed giant. Same at the dozens of hilltop enclosures in Ohio, West Virginia, and eastern Kentucky that predate known tribes by centuries. These aren't random field-clearing piles, they're engineered, often astronomically aligned, solstice sunrises, lunar standstills, and almost always on the highest, hardest-to-reach places imaginable. The Cherokee, Creek, Shawnee, Yuchi, and even the Catawba all told versions of the same story. We didn't build those, the people who were here before us did, and they couldn't stand the sun. So who were they, really? The grounded theories first. Many archaeologists believe the Moon-Eyed legend preserves a folk memory of the Adena culture, 1000 BCE to 200 CE, or early woodland peoples who survived in isolated mountain pockets longer than elsewhere. The Adena were known for elaborate burial mounds, long-distance trade networks, and occasional light skin pigmentation in some populations, possibly from limited sun exposure in deep valleys. Their descendants could have blended into Mississippian or Cherokee society, leaving the Night People story as a cultural scar. Then there's the Prince Madoc theory, beloved by 18th and 19th century antiquarians, who desperately wanted America to have a pre-Columbian European pedigree. The legend claims that in 1170 a Welsh prince named Madoc fled civil war, sailed west with 10 ships, and landed somewhere near Mobile Bay. His people moved inland, intermarried with locals, and became the Welsh Indians. When British explorers in the 1790s reported encountering Mandan tribes on the upper Missouri who were light-skinned, blue-eyed, and spoke words that sounded vaguely Celtic, the theory exploded. The Cherokee description of bearded, pale fort builders was seized on as proof. Thomas Jefferson even sent Lewis and Clark partly to look for them. No Welsh artifacts have ever been found, and modern linguistics has shredded the language claims, but the idea still pops up in DAR applications and little heritage museums from Kentucky to Tennessee. The fringe theories are where it gets fun. Some say the Moon-Eyed were surviving Atlanteans who escaped the cataclysm and hid in the mountains. Others claim they were a pre-Adamic race mentioned in certain esoteric Christian texts. UFO researchers tie them to the inner Earth stories that flourished in the 1940s to 50s, suggesting they were either aliens or humans who fled underground after a nuclear war in prehistory. Modern cryptid hunters speculate they were a relict hominid population. Think Homo floresiensis-style hobbits who crossed Beringia and survived in isolation. And then there's the version you'll still hear, whispered in certain North Georgia hollers, that they never really left, that they just went deeper, and that on certain nights you can still see their fires glowing faintly inside the mountains if you know where to look. The legend evolves with every generation. In the 1800s, as white settlers pushed the Cherokee west on the Trail of Tears, the Moon-Eyed story was retold with a colonial twist. Now they were ancient Celts or lost Israelites, proof that the land was destined for European hands. In the coal boom years, they became the ghosts of forgotten miners trapped in cave-ins. During the 1950s UFO flap, they morphed into stranded extraterrestrials. Today, they show up in indie horror like The Hollow, in bluegrass murder ballads, in TikTok, glitch in the Matrix videos where hikers swear they saw small, pale figures carrying stones across a ridge at 2 a.m. Cherokee storytellers still include them in the winter telling cycles, right alongside the Little People and the Spearfinger, and the Uktana. They're on the map at Fort Mountain State Park, on t-shirts at mountain craft fairs, in Manly Wade Wellman's Silver John stories where the bearded little men help, or hinder, a wandering balladeer with a silver-stringed guitar. And that's what makes the Moon-Eyed People so perfectly Northeast. This region has always had its hidden nations. The Piasa bird painted on the bluffs above the Mississippi, the stonecoat giants of the Iroquois, the underwater panthers of the Great Lakes tribes, the cannibal Wendigo that stalks the northern woods, the little people of the Cherokee and Algonquin alike, the melon heads of Connecticut, the pale cannibals said to live in the swamps outside Trumbull, the Dover demon that blinked its huge orange eyes at teenagers in 1977, the underground tunnels rumored beneath the Allegheny Plateau where pale, bearded men still speak Elizabethan English. Same song, different verse from the Gaspé Peninsula to the Tennessee River. The Moon-Eyed are simply the southernmost voice in that chorus. The mountains keep the receipts. Every few years, a hiker finds another wall no one can explain. Another cave with carvings that look like Celtic or Ogham or something older. Every few decades, a coal mine breaks into a hollow chamber with stone steps leading down, and the company quietly seals it up again. The stories don't die because the landscape won't let them. Even now, in 2025, the Moon-Eyed are alive and well. Bluegrass bands write songs about them. Indie horror films shoot in the North Georgia mountains with actors in white contact lenses and beards made of Spanish moss. Cherokee and Eastern band storytellers still include them in the winter telling cycles. And every full moon, somewhere along the Appalachian Trail from Pennsylvania to Georgia, somebody swears they saw small figures moving along a ridgeline, pale as bone, carrying stones that shouldn't be movable by human hands, disappearing into the tree line before you can get your phone camera focused. So the next time you're driving the Blue Ridge Parkway at twilight, or hiking the Laurel Highlands, or just sitting on a porch in the Catskills with the crickets going full blast and the moon rising over the ridge like a silver coin, remember this. The Northeast has always had its hidden nations. Some of them just preferred moonlight, and maybe, just maybe, they still do. Thanks for listening to Northeast Legends and Stories. If this one left you staring at the ridges a little longer next time you're out there, do me a favor. Leave a review, share the episode, and maybe keep an eye on the tree line when the moon is bright. You never know who might be watching back. See you next time somewhere deep in the weird, wonderful Northeast.